So the past has a lot of diversity in it, but we should look at what's really positive in that past and let go of the bad stuff. Like find a way to evolve past what's been wrong in the human experience and find a better way. And this is where the idea of the Sustainable Development Goals and technological and societal progress are together, unified for investment. Because there is no investment, there's no economy, there's no return on investment if there's no sustainability. The whole thing collapses. We are a web, we are one. The world, the biome is one entity, and if we can manage it from that big perspective and get smarter and use all the tools of intelligence, human intelligence, artificial intelligence, societal intelligence, in order to diversify the human experience and create a more sustainable life, the economy will benefit, companies will benefit, entrepreneurs will benefit, will open these opportunities. And we have to, I believe, have that perspective when we're engineering the technologies. It can't just be about maximizing a quarter and the profits of that quarter and the returns for those shareholders. It has to be all about how that adds to the future for our children.
So, Alexandra, could you add to what David was just saying about the tools, utilizing tools and resources? Among the entrepreneurs that you've worked with, I would imagine that many of them are activating a number of different tools and resources in really creative, interesting ways that might seem really disruptive and unusual to many of us. Can you share any examples of some young startups that are really harnessing technologies in an interesting way and doing so that is working toward achieving the SDGs?
Hello? Yes. So yeah, we work with a number of organizations, and we have some very interesting examples of, so we are selecting, we are offering a support program for enterprises, and we're selecting them based on their impact on the Sustainable Development Goals, on their scalability and innovation, and a number of other factors such as business model and team. The team plays a key role, and we're offering the support to scale. We find that there's a lot of value in having a focus on tech, and there's a lot of going on in the tech space. But for us, it has also been important that we broaden the spectrum. Tech is one tool of tackling the SDGs, and tech is the obvious tool, because here we are, we can reach scale at a whole different level. But for us, it's very important to put the SDGs in the middle. You know, what is the impact that we're creating? And so our program is less focused on how do we grow the business, rather how do we grow the impact on the SDGs. And that is the shift that I was talking about earlier, you know, rather saying a job creation, but what is the actual impact, and the tech being a tool, and new technologies being a tool for this. Yeah, we say that we have several companies working in the field of food waste, of water consumption, around health, etc. And most companies today are using technology, and therefore, like, you know, in order to promote entrepreneurship and for the next generation, technology is key. But it's not only that, and that's what I wanted to get to as well. With we do talk a lot about job creation, as you were mentioning, you know? And there is a lot of fear on, okay, are the robots going to steal our jobs, and you know what's going to happen? But maybe less conversation about what about the unsustainable, what's happening with, if we are wanting to achieve the SDGs, what about some of the, let's say, unsustainable industries? You know, let's say a coal plant is no longer...
Carbon emissions.
Yeah, carbon emission, but a coal plant is no longer sustainable. Do the governments have the transition plans in place to see, like, how do we move away from these unsustainable businesses? And as Barbara was talking about, you know, new clean tech, etc., creates a lot of jobs. And if we shift the way we look at business, and particularly young entrepreneurs, as business as can really serve for governments to solve some of these key priorities in these sustainable development goals, you know, poverty, climate change, access to water. And while they are finding solutions and providing solutions for these SDGs, they are also creating jobs. They're also fitting into the economy. So that's just what I wanted to point out.
And there, you mentioned that there's more of an emphasis on how the business model is impacting one or more of the SDGs. So does that detract from an emphasis on profit at the same time, or has that been a challenge that you're seeing the entrepreneurs face?
So we talk a lot about scale, and scaling is often, you know, there's still a focus are often around, you know, quantity versus like over quality, consumption over creation, quick exits over sustainable growth. And this, when we are speaking about venture capitalism and access to capital, it's still the dominant paradigm on looking at some of these factors. Yeah, shareholder profit over shared prosperity. So your question was that?
Just if the emphasis on impacting the Sustainable Development Goals through their business models, if the entrepreneurs are finding that to be challenging up against also wanting to create profit.
Yeah. So definitely. I mean, there's today, you know, access to investment is the obvious field. Of course, there's a growing impact investing field. But there are also government policies that are not necessarily bringing incentives to smaller or medium-sized startups to actually be sustainable. And as long as governments are also having certain incentives in place that are, you know, like, let's say, subsidies, let's say in the agricultural field where there are large-scale subsidies that are clearly promoting companies that are not necessarily sustainable, and not having clear incentives for newer startups that are providing sustainable solutions on agriculture, on food security. We are working with two competing factors. So it needs to be, I think, any type of approach around impact and supporting new companies and entrepreneurs. It needs to have a holistic approach. But I can name several examples where the companies are disincentivized because they are actually focused on tackling the SDGs versus profit value.
And I think it's also important to keep in mind that an organization, a company, a startup, a large established company can have a positive impact and influence the SDGs not only in their service or product, but in their operations. Maybe it's using clean energy for half or all of their activity, or maybe it's employing a certain number of homeless people in the community in which the organization is housed. There are different ways to tweak business models or operations. You don't necessarily have to be a quote-unquote social enterprise organization to do that. But now I'd like to switch the conversation over to gender equality for a few moments, because we have 3 women on a panel about business and technology, which is very rare, at least in the United States. There's 4 women, 5 if you count me, Sophia, and myself. So, Barbara, I'd like to start with you on encouraging women to get involved with business innovation, and particularly around the SDGs, and what you're seeing, you know, what the climate is like around gender equality and the arenas that you're in right now.
I think time is great for women today, because we have all options open. We can, you know, we can study, we can stay home, we can have children and work, we can have it all, and I think that's great. But obviously, it does not come on a silver plate. Nothing actually comes on a silver plate. And I think as a woman still today, in my time probably even more, but still today you have to go for it a little bit more. But obviously I think what's very important to really define what you want, and not every woman wants to be a CEO. And by the way, to be a CEO, it's a great job. It's 7 days, 24 hours, China, India, Mexico, everywhere, traveling and so on. Great job, but you really need to wait off. Now, what do I see as an opportunity with green tech and the SDGs? I see a lot of women as entrepreneurs involved in companies, involved in startups in this area. And somehow it seems that there is some kind of a closeness for women, we think maybe a bit more long-term, with children and families and so on. But there seems to be a bit of an affinity of women and the SDGs. So I think great times for us, but of course also for men, I have to say, but also great times for women positioning themselves in the SDG space.
Juliette, what is it like in Africa for women, entrepreneurs in particular? Are you seeing growth in that arena for women? Are you seeing women in more in the business innovation side of things? How far do we have to go there?
That's a great question for Africa, because we see a lot more women actually as entrepreneurs, especially in terms of women who are either vendors on our platform or providing different services on our platform. The reason for that is because they require less infrastructure to set up. Okay, so you don't have to rent a shop or an office space to set up a digital business or to provide services online. You can literally have your laptop in your living room and so on. So that speaks quite particularly to women in terms of, here's, a type of business you can start with very limited upfront capital, put it that way, upfront physical asset creation that you have to create. So we see quite a lot of that, and even strangely enough, even in our organization, we also see that the split between women and men is about 50%, is about roughly about 50-50 right now. I think within my 9 direct reports, I probably have 5 women as well. So we see that in the digital area, possibly much more than in an offline environment than anything else. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, a lot of times on panels or at conferences that I moderate, the gender equality question is usually only addressed to women. And since David and Tadahiro are both here, do you have any thoughts on approaching gender equality through your business, through artificial intelligence, or any thoughts that Hanson Robotics are doing or the Kawanda Group? If you have anything.
Yes, at Hanson Robotics, it's a very high priority, both within our organization and as a mission for our organization with outreach with our robots. And we've represented in the robots about 50-50 male, female, and actually a couple of non-gender and intergender robots, and a very wide diversity. We've made dozens of designs. Sophia is the most popular design that we've made, and she was built with, so you introduced me as the father of Sophia, but there were fathers and mothers of Sophia, lots of people on
She has
our
lots
team.
of parents.
She does, she definitely does. And then we have collaborations around the world. I'm very pleased that we have a couple of dozen developers in Ethiopia who are working with us, and that's opened up a lot of opportunities for women in Ethiopia. We like her going around the world and developing, being developed like the AI, the open platform, serving girls and women, and I just hope that she inspires women. At our organization, we're about a little less than 40% female, but we're working really hard to adjust that. That's, we want it to be 50-50 women, men. It's a hard goal when you look at Silicon Valley, and the percentage is a lot less than that. And